Look! Up in the air! It's a bird!
It's a plane.
It's Superman! Superman! Dun, dun, dun. Hey everybody, welcome back to Movies and TVs on the Ball. And this is going to be, I'm Steve, your host, and with me as always.
Jay.
And we are doing two videos on the Superman comic and called The Death of Superman that was released in 1993, which is I guess now the 31st anniversary.
Right.
And then we're going to talk about Superman Doomsday, which is the animated movie that's based on it. So I kind of want to give you guys like a kind of a kind of a preview, kind of let's look at the comics and then we'll look at the animated movie to see what they did wrong, what did they add, and that kind of thing. So I guess where we could start is Jay, what you've heard about this, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, heard about. I think probably was introduced at first in like the animated series.
Did they
Doom-
do like a
Yeah, I think
Doomsday?
they had a
Was it the
Doomsday.
Ultimate Superman or was
I
it?
can't remember exactly where he was, but I think that's where my first introduction to Doomsday was. What about you?
Do I think this cover, which shows if you've seen the cover, we'll probably show an image of it. It's sort of a stick and like Superman's cape flowing,
Torn.
tattered and torn, and it's on the um, waving in the background. That or waving in the foreground. That's what really kind of got me into it, and I think that's what the cover for mine is,
Right.
and I think yours is sort of bloody Superman logo.
Right.
And I kind of knew about this story, and I knew this was like one of the biggest because I think at the time Superman sales were flanking a little bit. Was that kind of the reason why they did it? Or
I'm
was
not
it a
sure.
marketing scheme?
I mean, so I know they sort of got it was like over different comic book series. They all sort of all got together and planned out the storyline. So it was like a big. They were like all working together to get this out there.
Okay. Um. So what was your So I guess we should start with um kind of so the it starts out with Superman. I guess we'll start where it starts out with and kind of
Sort of starts with Doomsday just sort of breaking out of some like a prison. They don't,
prison,
and that's sort of interesting. Like the whole book, they don't explain where he came from. It
and
just
it's
sort of
kind of the
he's just
illusion. I mean, which or the kind of the not the illusion, but the mystery of it.
right. He's just there, and he's
Because if you yeah, because if you remember in Superman v Batman,
right.
Dawn of Justice, they just said, "Oh, we made Doomsday in the in
Yeah,
Lex
it's like a
Luthor's lab."
clone of Superman's DNA.
DNA or something,
I
which
think it
was
was
just
also Zod's DNA. Like
Zod's DNA, I think. Yeah, but I think this one, I like how they just show like him just
just punches his way
punches
through.
the wall, and then when he opens it, and then I love it because I could hear like if this was done in a movie, the like the music, kind of like the happy music that's
Right.
playing. And
Make Doomsday sort of. I mean, it's not cartoons. It's a comic book evil. He just sort of like, goes around like crushing birds and killing deer and just like punching trees for fun. He's just sort of like
and I like his look because he's not like he's kind of in like this suit,
right.
kind of this green suit with like these cords around him.
So you don't really know what he looks like until later on.
Yeah, which I like the mystery. I like the mystery. So anyway, we see Superman flying in the air, and we see this little boy who is wanting to buy some spray paint
Right.
at a like a hardware store, like a local store,
Right.
and he's looking up in the sky. He's like, "Boy, he's so awesome. He saved me two times now. Now he's my friend,
Right.
and I wish I could tell him, but I just can't. So there's only one thing to do." So he's using the spray paint to kind of warn him, or not warn him, but
Right. Because there's this whole other like a where what were they called? There's this whole like underworld society under Metropolis.
yeah, like the
Like
Morlocks of
yeah, sort of
of
like the Warlocks, and there's some people from War World under there trying to like plan the revenge.
and they've
try to
there
like steal the power to the city, and the little kid sort of helps Superman guide him there with some like glow in the dark spray paint.
spray paint, yeah. And then he gives a letter to he sends a letter to Lois Lane about this, we
The attack that's
the
about to
attack
happen.
that's about to happen. And Lois kind of uh Lois kind of doesn't take it, she takes it for seriousness,
Right.
and she basically uh, kind of warns, um she goes and she's like, oh, I need to tell Clark. And then I love that we see Doomsday still in his purple suit, or not purple suit,
Green.
but green suit,
Right.
and we see him. We hear a chirp, 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 and this little bird, and I'm wondering if it'll be shown in the Doomsday
Yeah.
movie.
I'm not sure.
The bird lands onto his hand, and he goes chirp, 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 and squeezes it and kills it.
Right. Yeah, it seems to happen a couple times where animals are very trusting of this like giant 12-foot tall
Yeah,
person.
person. And I love the fact that he actually, after he
He
chokes
just
it to
always
death,
like laughs.
he goes, ha ha ha. And then so Superman, after doing his dare and do, he flies back to Metropolis, changes clothes, and he checks out his messages on his emails
Right.
on his computer, and then the power goes out, right?
Yeah, because the underworld people have cut the power at the power station,
Power station.
and then Superman flies over and he, sort of, I guess,
So the power goes out,
right,
and then Lo and Clark is like, "Oh, something must be wrong. I need to go see where Lois is."
right.
Meanwhile, Lois is kind of at a power
Yeah, she goes and
power
investigates and
station.
gets
She
captured.
gets captured.
Right,
So like, that's interesting. Is we can see that she does like her um in the panels, her like climbing through stuff. So
right,
she's very eligible, and then she gets to like you know she gets into this like hole, and a hand comes and grabs her shoulder,
right.
and she tries to kick out, but it's this big rock looking thing, and
The Closter.
what's his name?
The Closter,
The
I think.
Gloucester. And he's working with um,
The people from the underworld.
people from the underworld. And I guess she twists her ankle, because I kind of noticed, and
Oh, when she kicks him and he's like
kicks
made
it
out of
made of
concrete.
concrete. So then she becomes their captive. He ties her up, and she's like, "Who are you? What do you want? What's going on?" And he says, I can't I'm a homeless guy. No, it wasn't that
Well, I guess we find out later that that's Lois's informant.
informant.
Yeah,
So anyway, and as all this is happening, the little what's the boy's name?
Keith.
Keith is seeing all this and is like,
Right,
I need to warn Superman.
right,
And then we meet the Doomsday guy, or Doomsday. He's walking around the forest, just small. He's like a elephant, just demolishing everything he sees.
right,
And then Superman. So then Keith goes through the sewer and spray paints like arrows to get Superman's direction, and then he gets to the um, basketball court and spray paints an S, kind of like Batman's
symbol. Yeah,
symbol, like symbol in the light, and he starts kind of saying, oh, I just hope Superman can get here so we can save the day, so he can save the day. And then Superman shows up and says, Keith, Superman, it's you. I knew you'd come. There's this reporter lady in the tunnel monsters have her. So this gives Superman kind of like, oh, is it my girlfriend Lois Lane? And they're like, I guess. And then, meanwhile, at the I guess they're not the Morlocks. What are they called?
The Underworlders, I think,
Underworlders have got like this giant
drilling
drilling
machine.
machine, and they're drilling through the underground
Right. And
city.
this has become, I guess, I don't know if it's become like a stereotype now, but you always hear like the people like drill up from like the underworld, like we're gonna take over the surface
Theater
world.
Surface World.
Seems to happen.
Well, I mean, like I think I mean, I know this is DC, but in X-Men, the Morlocks,
Right.
they discovered the Time Machine novel and
Uh-huh.
got the name the Morlocks through that. 'Cause I think
Gotcha.
those are the creatures in the
Yeah, the
comic
H.G. Wells
in
time
A.G.
machine.
Wells' Time Machine. So anyway, um they're kind of drilling through, and they're like, "Yay, we're getting through. We're getting through. It's gonna be ours." And then Superman stops them,
Right.
and
And pretty much, sort of, I think they're maybe trying to contrast, like nothing can really hurt him. Like he just sort of easily takes out this giant.
well, he stuffs a guy. He stuffs one of the monsters.
He grabs a
Now,
grenade, shoves a
oh,
grenade
it's a
in.
grenade.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, okay. So he shoves a grenade into this like. He looks like the thing with like
spikes and
spikes and
just a
stuff.
cluster, and he blows up,
He
but he
blows
doesn't
up.
die because he's invulnerable. So Superman doesn't kill him again.
So then we've got these other guys who show up with a gun, and they shoot Superman, but of course it doesn't affect him. And then they've got these robotic
Yeah,
things.
giant robots, sort of your run of the mill Superman stuff, I guess.
Yeah, and then um then we're met. Then we see Doomsday coming out of the ground, right? Uh,
Yeah, he's just sort of going around destroying stuff like cars and
Cars and stuff. So
planes.
he's on the ground. He's
He's on
on
a
the surface
rampage.
and doing a rampage. And then Superman is beating up this homeless guy who's just kidnapped Lois Lane.
But yes, he's acting. He was the informant.
He
He's
was
trying
the
to help her
informant.
the
He
whole
was
time.
trying to help her the whole time. And she's like, "Don't you dare punch him. Punch out Charlie. He's the reason we know about the underworld schemes." We did? Sure. This is what Lois says. "You're here, aren't you? Well, Charlie's our informant. He's a hero. He saved Metropolis." Right. So, and then I like how, and I do like that kind of, you do see that kind of interesting kind of relationship that, the characters
Yeah.
of Lois. And I don't know if the death of Superman happened before Lois Lane found out in the comics that Clark Kent is Superman.
No, I think they know they yeah, they're I think they're like
They
married at
knew
this
that,
point.
but
Yeah.
they knew that at that point.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, um, he's working with the Morlocks. He takes, or he finds out that the Morlocks are
He sends everybody to jail.
yeah, pretty much
Sort of like happily ever after as
ever
well.
after, yeah. And then Doomsday is got in on the street, and he's causing
Yeah, he's
traffic problems.
punching
And
out tractor trailers.
and I like, and so these like guys over at are watching the tractor trailer,
Uh
and he's like, "Hey, what's this guy doing over here?" And he basically um turns over like a gas tractor, and we kind of see. I like the fact that he's in this sort of, I mean, gimp outfit. Like you don't really
yeah,
see
sort of
him
like a green straight jacket type
green
deal.
straight jacket,
Yeah.
and I love how he's just kind of walking around.
Because
He's
he only has one arm free.
fire, and so then we get to Doomsday Justice League issue number 69. And this is where I guess the Justice League uh, fight
Doomsday.
Doomsday, and I like this one because I kind of like how they're doing all the work. Superman is on a TV show
Right.
talking about how is it to be Superman and all that kind of stuff. And then you've got, I think, Booster Gold,
Yep.
uh,
Skull, Blue
Blue
Beetle,
Beetle, and who's the one?
Bloodwind,
Bloodwind,
uh,
and who's the
Maxima,
Maxima? And then there's the
Fire and Ice.
Fire and Ice,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
he's
and then Guy Gardner,
Guy Gardner,
the guy who used to be the Green Lantern.
Green Lantern, right? And so she's kind of asking him, how's it feel to reunite the Justice League, being part of the Justice League, and interviewing on that, and like, how is it to be Superman? What's life like to be Superman? And then, meanwhile, Booster Gold and the Justice League members get shot by a
Doomsday just throws a tree at their
tree at the
Blue Beetle mobile
Blue
or
Beetle
whatever it's
mobile,
called.
and they crash. Uh, Blue Beetle saves the ice.
No, I think
That
that's Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner saves the ice, and uh, I like how, I mean, this is would look pretty cool in in a in, I guess, in a film
Right.
where you could see him like going. He talks about like, we Justice League have a variety of interests, just as he's doing the kind of doing his interview, and as he's doing his interview, I like how they basically um we kind of, I can kind of see in like a film version,
Um,
like where it's like going, oh, he's strong, and you see him like lift some, that kind of like images of like what's going on. So we see as so Clark Kent is doing an interview still,
right.
and he's talking about how he's the sort of poster child for the Justice League, and he says, have a variety of interests, just as you and your friends do. Blue Beetle is an inventor who enjoys spending his free time in the lab. Ice likes to travel. Like, he talks about how the Justice League are just like, they're just like you with powers.
Right.
And then as he's saying this, we see kind of, as it's going on, we see the Justice League, like Guy Gardner and Blue Beetle, and who's the one with the cape?
That's Bloodwind.
And Bloodwind, and the girl, green hair girl,
I think that's Fire.
Fire. Is They're having a fight with Doomsday. D- Uh, Guy Gardner,
He flies
he's
in first and sort of just gets his head smashed.
head smashed by
Doomsday.
Doomsday, and I think he's, according to the comics, he's wearing a yellow ring. Is he part of
Right.
the?
He was in the Green Lantern Corps, but he got kicked out.
Oh, he did in the
Yeah.
comics.
Yeah, and it's not, I can't. I don't know. He ended up with a yellow ring, but so he's not evil, but he's like more violent than.
Gotcha. So anyway, we they're on it. So basically, it's a talk show, and kind of like Oprah Winfrey, and I guess her name is
Miss Grant, I think.
Miss Grant, and she's kind of she's doing an audience question, and this little kid says, speaking of Guy Gardner, why won't you guys let him be a Green Lantern anymore? And why'd you fire him? I can assure you that we had. He sounds like a politician when he says this.
Uh,
He says, I can assure you that we had no say regarding Guy's status in the Green Lantern Corps. I was there. Oh, and then um, Green or Doomsday smashes Guy Gardner's face into the pavement, and then we see a kid in the classroom. I don't know what is his name.
I can't remember. He shows up later.
Yeah. Then they're watching Superman do a review or doing an interview, and he's wanting them to talk to Guy Gardner, and then Doomsday grabs Guy Gardner by the head,
Um,
and he's about to throw him, and then who's
which one?
the
Oh, that's fire.
fire shows up and blazes tries to blaze Doomsday off, and this knocks out Guy Gardner. So meanwhile, and I like this scene because I like it. I could see it kind of going where Superman's getting interviewed, and we see each one of the members of the Justice League
Just get demolished.
get demolished. Like I like how who's the
That's a Bloodwind.
Bloodwind gets thrown into the fence
Right, and through like a big gas tank.
gas tank, and
Yep.
then he gets and then the rest of the Justice League try or is it the Justice League?
Yeah, it's the Justice League.
Justice League. They basically are all like using their powers against Doomsday, but it's like, it's just
You're like ants to me.
adds to me kind of thing. And then and I like it. I like how you know yeah, and it's kind of cutting back and forth with their questions.
Right.
And we have a woman
You like ask him if he's ever afraid.
ever afraid, and she's like got hippie or hippie
Peace
peace
signs.
signs on her. And then I like how when she said ever afraid, we see what's his Booster Gold? What's
Like
that?
Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle get completely choked
Yeah.
and he dies, I think.
No, he almost died.
He
A lot of them
almost
like
died
almost died.
because you can't kill a superhero except Superman. So, and then and I like how Clark's basically saying, or Superman's like saying, I don't think violence is necessary. Like violence is the last,
Um,
option. And then Blue Beetle is thrown. Is it Blue Beetle?
yeah, Blue Beetle's the one that just
Is um, thrown by Doomsday, and this kills Beetle.
he just needs to go to the hospital.
Goes to the hospital right away.
He's dead for a bit.
And then Superman, as Booster Gold is taking care of Doomsday, Superman says, "This interview's over. I need to go and save the day."
Right,
And so Booster Gold fights Doomsday, but then gets punched
right,
by Doomsday, and he flies out of the air, and I think is saved by Superman. And it looks like in the panel that Superman is just standing on the clouds.
right.
Um, of course, it's Superman. So, in the next issue is called Countdown to Doomsday, and Booster Gold just
It's Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle, Blue
Blue.
Beetle,
The blue one's Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle. Okay, the Blue Beetle. How is he? And he's unconscious.
Yeah,
His pulse is nearly non-existent. He's dying, Maxim. And then Maxim and Ice start talking about
like Ice wants Maxima to take Blue Beetle to the hospital. Maxima's no, I must battle. But then convinces her to take Blue Beetle to the hospital.
right. And then we get to what is his name?
Ice is gonna like try to slow down Doomsday, and then we get the like a
A
teenager.
teenager. What's his name? I'm trying to think.
No, no, it's 90s teenager. It's got a
His name's Mitch.
skateboard. Okay,
His name is Mitch. So he's in a skateboard. He has a backwards hat that has like one of those fitting things that you used to have.
like
And he's
bubble
got long
gum.
hair and he's chewing bubble gum. And
He's
he's
like
like,
mad he doesn't have soda.
home sweet home. And he goes to his mom, and his mom looks like his mom's like feeding the baby, and she's like going, "How was your first day at school?" and he's like, "We got anything to eat around here?"
He's like, no soda, no
No
underground
soda.
divorced
Shoot,
me. It's like
yeah,
such a terrible kid. It was like the worst.
that is. I'm like going. Did he say that? I think.
Yeah, on the next couple pages, yeah.
Look, I'm sorry, but your little sister isn't feeling well. And she's more focused on her little sister. And I love how he gets so mad that um he's going. And so he gets mad. He goes over to. He says, "All right, forget it. I'm going over to my friend's house, Aaron's." And then right then, he a ice is thrown straight into their windshield,
Yeah, right.
and we see like, "Mitch, I want you to call out, hurry!" And she's like, "Our car!" And Doomsday has like ruined their car.
Right.
Um, that dude did all this with one hand behind his back, and Doomsday and there's like, "Oh, what do we do?" And all of a sudden, Booster Gold?
No, yeah, that was
Booster
Booster Gold.
Gold and Superman show up, and first things first is uh, Doomsday punches Superman in the chest, and it doesn't do anything.
Right.
And I like how his mom says, "Wow, that punch looked like it could have caved in a mountain." And Superman took it, and he says, "Big deal. The Spud was too slow and stupid to duck." And then Superman or Doomsday kicks him
Through the house.
through the house, and he's like, "Unbelievable!" And then the house falls down. And then Doomsday takes Booster Gold. Was it Booster Gold?
Yeah, it's Booster Gold.
Booster Gold and shoves him into a tree. And then, I mean, it is. I mean, and then he comes back into the house and he kind of wrecks the house. And
Then we sort of get the time where now the rest of the Justice League have like come up, and now they're going to hit them all together.
yeah, but I did like kind of how we got to see Superman or kind of that the like the I guess they kind of seem like the normal character, not normal, but like the token characters. They're like, oh, it's the family that just happens to be in Doomsday's
Right.
wrath. Um, so then he punches he punches Doomsday. The Justice League team members all get together and all of our powers in a combined comfort effort, and Superman's like, let's just do it. And then Superman and Booster Gold and the Green One
Fire.
and Fire and um,
Bloodwind.
Bloodwind put all their powers together, and they power up the uh, power out Doomsday, but it doesn't do anything except just rips his pants off, rips his
Costume and freezes his
costume and
other arm.
freezes his other arm. And then we kind of get, and I like Doomsday's look because we see sort of the claws
Right.
or the
And all his like bony
his bony
spikes.
spikes, which kind of reminds me of like an X-Men character, Marrow.
Right.
Remember Marrow?
Yeah.
Um, and so he's grabbing Booster Gold by the Doomsday is grabbing Booster Gold by the throat, and he's pulled Superman back, and then he grabs Booster Gold by the throat and throws him into a car. Um, and Superman and um
Yeah, he sort of just quickly takes out all of the Justice League and
the
then sort of jumps away.
way and then blows up their house.
Right.
Blows up Aaron. Is it Aaron?
I don't know, the teenager.
Yeah,
I don't know,
teenager's house.
maybe.
Mitch. And he's like super. No, he's going to Aaron's house,
Right.
and basically he sees his
Mom and little sister trapped in the fire.
fire, and he's like, Superman! And Superman's like, forget this, I'm gonna go after Doomsday. And Doomsday is like and he's on his trail, and he's like this close to his feet, and
Uh,
then he hears the cry of Aaron to save him, for save him, and then that's kind of the end of the issue. Then the next issue is called Adventures of Superman, and we basically see Doomsday beating or Doomsday and Superman fight in the air. And meanwhile, while the rest of the Justice League is sort of knocked out.
right.
And what do you think of kind of seeing these Justice League members? I didn't know like the green was he a Yellow Lantern?
I think he was in the Green Lantern, but he got kicked out.
Then he became the Yellow Lantern.
I'm not. I can't. I don't know his whole story. I think there was something where they went and stole one of Sinestro's ring or something, but I don't know his full comic
Comic is
back.
okay. So anyway, he's crying out for Superman. Then the rest of the Justice League of America is sort of trying to get back on their feet. Um, and then Superman, basically fights Doomsday in the air, and he fights him in the air. Then they go down, and he tries to get him in the water. He fires him down to the water, and as he's in the water, he goes back up to save his Aaron's mom and his kid sister
Yeah,
with the help of
Bloodwind.
Bloodwind. And then the ambulance shows up. They all save him. All come in, and then they think, "Oh, thank you for saving us." And then all of a sudden, out of the water is Doomsday, and Doomsday goes all the way to a helicopter and blows it up, and then the pilots are flying. They're like, "Help us, Superman!"
Right.
Superman saves them while just before throwing, I guess, a missile
Yeah,
at
Doomsday.
Doomsday. Um, and then Doomsday shows up at the police station and destroys a cop car. And then Doomsday and Superman fight at the police station. The helicopter shows up. Doomsday destroys the helicopter. And then who's the girl with the
Maxima.
Maxima
Yeah.
helps out Superman defeat Doomsday. Meanwhile, at I guess the television studio,
Right.
it's Cat Grant. No, is it Lois Lane?
Yeah, it's Lois Lane and Clark Kent.
And Lois Lane is trying to get an interview, right? Or
No, she's trying to get Jimmy Olsen
Jimmy Olsen, and Jimmy Olsen's working for a TV station
for like during his lunch break.
during his lunch
It's,
break.
what was it? They're filming the Turtle Man show
Turtle Man's
or
show,
Turtle Boy.
Turtle Boy, and she's like, "I need to get," and the security guard's like, "I'm not going to let you in. I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna let you in." And then she's like, um, he's like, she gets her way into there, and Jimmy is he's playing the Turtle Man, and she says, "Jimmy, the chief will have your hide if your lunch hour isn't 3 hours long." Lois, taping ran a little late, little long, but this is my first TV show. What were you doing? And then they watch the screen, and then the newsman shows up and says, Doomsday is coming to Metropolis. And Lex Luthor, who has got like this awesome beard, like this Amish looking beard, apparently he is watching like the news, drinking some champagne, and he's dating Supergirl,
Right.
which I guess is in the comics. Do you know
I
anything?
didn't know. the background on.
But sorry. Um, so I guess that's like her like, hello, it's me cameo. So then at like a grocery in front of a grocery store, who's the redhead?
That's a Maxima.
A Maxima fights off Doomsday, and she uh throws him into the grocery store,
Right.
and then Superman shows up, and she first fights him, and then she's like, "We shouldn't fight.
Teammates.
We're teammates," and so she and Superman take on um, the uh, Doomsday, and then Booster Gold shows up after the
No,
damage.
it's the Guardian.
The Guardian. Okay. Do you know anything about the Guardian?
I know he's from Project Cadmus. Like he's a clone of some other. Or I don't know if that's. I'm a thing. I think he's a clone of the original Guardian.
Okay. Okay.
And like Cadmus does all the genetic engineering stuff.
Then we go to issue 684 of Superman in Action Comics, and we're pretty much so Doomsday. He's kind of like the city's been kind of destroyed. Superman, Booster Gold, and
Maxima.
Maxima are sort of there. Superman flies to Doomsday, who is just torn up a semi
Right.
with gasoline, or that holds gasoline, and he punches a car. And this guy's like, "Oh my God, we're going up!" He's going all the way up, 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 and he's like, "It's gonna be the last of us!" And then all of a sudden, Superman flies up and saves him,
Right.
and then um, he puts him down, and then at a Lexmart,
Right.
which isn't a Walmart, but I think has something to do with Kmart. Because Kmart was big back in the 90s. We see uh, Doomsday just moving his way into the Lexmart. And I love it. I thought this was a pretty cool scene. Is like he's moving and moving, moving, and he stops at this wrestling at
Commercial.
commercial, and he's like, I'm talking about war, and he's like talking about it, and he gets into it, and he looks at the ad, and then destroys the TV.
Right. Yeah. And then that's sort of like he was just sort of randomly destroying stuff. Now he's headed towards Metropolis.
Right, and then Superman shows up at the Kmart or
Lexmark.
Lexmart
Right.
and fights um, Doomsday in the Lexmart. Meanwhile, Supergirl and Lex Luthor are hanging out in his apartment,
Right.
and Lex Luthor and Supergirl is like, "I need to go help my cousin." I think that's what he says.
Or yeah, she does want to go help. I'm not. I just don't not sure if this is the actual Supergirl, like a clone. I don't. I just don't know the origin of.
I don't know this, but she's like,
Yeah, she wants to go help, but Lex is like, no, stay here to protect the city.
"Protect the city," and then he says, "Superman will be just fine." And as he say, and that would be a cool shot just to see in the film, in like a film where he's like,
Right.
"Superman," and we see Doomsday throw a bus at Superman, and he falls into the Lexmark, and he laughs, and then Superman fights Lex Luthor, or fights
Doomsday.
Doomsday, and meanwhile, as he's fighting Doomsday, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen get in a helicopter and kind of basically watch them fight.
Right.
And then as they're watching them fight, we see do
Superman throws him into Project Cadmus
which is
near them. Right.
you don't really know what project.
It's like a secret government lab that does like genetic experiments.
Okay,
Like they made the
that's in the comics.
yeah they made the just the Guardian
The
and
Guardian. Okay,
some other guys.
so and then Superman throws him in this uh,
It's called the Habitat.
habitat, and the habitat's got all these like
Super
super
trees.
trees and stuff. And Superman tries to get Doomsday's neck, but Doomsday just hits him in the head or hits him, and then Superman takes like part of the tree and tries to hit Doomsday, and Doomsday goes Cartoon, and then we see um, kind of the whole for habitat for is completely destroyed by Doomsday, and then Doomsday just leaves. He sees the
Metropolis
no,
sign.
he sees
Oh, Guardian.
Guardian down, and he's goes and takes on Metropolis. And I love the fact that he comes down and he just steps on Metropolis that says Metropolis 50 miles, and he heads back to Earth or back to Metropolis. So he's in Metropolis in issue 19 of Superman, the Man of Steel, and first thing he does, he's at a construction site and he's throwing a bunch of construction stuff away.
Right.
Construction stuff away. And then Superman um, comes in and or he doesn't really say anything, but he's holding this Doomsday is holding this one guy, and I would and he just says ah, and then Superman shows up and pushes him down, and then Superman takes him and throws him up in the sky, but Doomsday grabs him,
Yeah, and wiggles it up.
wriggles it up, and then meanwhile, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen are in a helicopter watching this go down.
Right.
And then there's like a bunch of helicopters. And then who's this guy?
That is someone else from Project Cadmus. I forget his. It's like starts with the B, like Bielzik or something. I think he's like a psychic power guy from Project Cadmus.
Okay, okay. So
He's
the
like trying to read Doomsday's mind.
Doomsday was mine. And so the helicopters, and then he leaps from the and up to the helicopter, the Doomsday.
Which one? Oh no, that's Superman falls into the building.
Superman falls into the thing,
Mhm.
and then so meanwhile, Superman falls into the thing. Clark Kent, not Clark Kent, Mom and Pa Kent are watching it, and they're like, "Don't worry, he'll be all right. He's our son." And then Superman gets up, and meanwhile, Doomsday is crushing it at the
He falls into the underworld.
underworld, and he sees these two um, guys.
Yeah, he sort of like frees some of the people that were Superman first stopped, but he doesn't. He's not there to free them. He just sort of accidentally breaks them up,
Breaks them out,
and
and
they
they're like,
kills
"Thank you,
them.
thank you," and he kills them.
Right.
Like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then and then we see Superman puts him in a headlock,
And he tries to
and
fly away, but then
and
another explosion happens.
right. Meanwhile, um, or Supergirl and Lex Luthor are being interviewed. Uh, that and I love how they're being interviewed, and
Lex Luthor blames everything on Superman.
of course he does. Um, and and I guess Supergirl's a little bit like
I gotta help.
I gotta help Lex Luthor, or I gotta help Superman. And then she gets so Superman grabs Doomsday in the back
Uh,
and takes him up, and Lois, and then apparently, and then Supergirl shows up and they get hit in the head
right.
because they have a large laser beam, and then Doomsday falls. Then there's these two people that are working on a science experiment.
There's some laser. I'm sure they're in earlier comics. I was not sure who they are. They have some sort of like laser cannon and
Laser cannon, and then
gravity
they're
wells.
falling. And as they're falling, Superman
Protects the
protects the
orphans.
orphans, and then he's got a group of like
Like
citizens that
I think
want
it's like the Gotham Police
the
Department.
Gotham Police Department show up and they start boom, boom, shooting at Doomsday, but nothing will stop him. And Doomsday throws a car at the mom, or not mom, but
It's the
the
police,
police.
right?
And then Superman shows up, stands in the way, stands up and punches Doomsday. And then he punches Doomsday, and they have this huge battle. And
Right.
there's these guys in
Jetlag
jetpacks that
things.
are helping with Doomsday, but I don't know if they're um, working or not. Or I mean, they're not part of.
Not not affecting Doomsday.
They're affecting Doomsday. And then Doomsday throws Superman up in the air
Into
and,
Lois's
and
Lane
Lois's
helicopter.
Lane's helicopter, knocking out um, one of the guys in the jetpacks.
Uh,
And then Superman, it kind of their helicopter's about to fall, and Superman grabs it and saves it and helps it and lands it on a different thing.
right.
And then Superman is sort of Lois is like, please, maybe you should retreat and get help if Jimmy is right. And Superman's like, it's too late, Lois. I have to fight. And then they kiss, and she says, but now Doomsday gets his. Wait, come back, please. And he goes straight into Doomsday. And I'll have to say, I love this painting or this
Panel.
artwork or
Right.
this panel. Yeah, you're right. Panel of Lois just looking back, and he's so big and so fired up. And I mean that's a great shot. So he ends up going straight into Doomsday. The and that hits a car, and then there's another channel news that's kind of filming it. Um, Doomsday gets the upper advantage of Superman and throws him to the ground. And then Lois Lane is in I guess, the lobby of the Daily Planet with Jimmy Olsen
Yeah,
and
near the
Doomsday. And they're like, oh no, what do we do? And then Superman's hand comes up and fist comes up, and Superman punches Doomsday. And then I love it because then Superman uses his laser vision or
right,
heat wave,
right,
and he just tries to give Doomsday enough power to like hurt or laser. And like I love the suit is completely torn up. He's basically his cape is
torn off.
torn off. He's basically he looks rough and tough. His legs are bleeding, and he's got the laser vision, and he's trying to get to the laser vision's trying to hit Doomsday, and then Doomsday comes by and takes one of his um, claw
Spikes.
spikes and basically nicks his chin, and then starts beating Doomsday. And Clark or Superman have the fight, and I love it. I think that the expression
Yeah,
of the comics really show off, and we see Doomsday hitting Luke Skywalker, hitting Clark, hitting Superman in the face. And then there's this like, and we see Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane watching it. And then I love that they actually show uh, um, Lois Lane on TV with Superman holding him, caressing him, and Mom and Pa Kent are hugging each other.
right.
And it's just, it's so iconic. this you've got the cape in the back on the stand like a
Right.
flag, and she's holding Superman, and is she dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? And then I love the here lies Earth's greatest hero, Superman, and then I think that's the end,
Yeah, that's the end of the.
the death of Superman. There's a little bit more, I guess, of it in the deluxe edition, but I guess we can talk about what was your. How'd you like it? Did you like it? I mean, visually, I thought it was.
That was good. Yeah, it was good. I'd never read it before. I did like how there are so many things that were like, Lex Mart, Lex Oil,
Yeah,
like Lex parking garages. I
yeah,
think he owned the news channel.
yeah. And I did. Well, I thought it was like Lexmart, and I was like, is that like Kmart?
Right.
Um, and I liked what I liked about it is I liked the fact that it goes straight into it. Now I'm curious to see because I mean this isn't that big of a novel. I mean it's a big novel, but it doesn't have enough detail for like a 30-minute show. An hour.
Right.
But I feel like it did for what it did a great job. I like the fact that yours has got more the on our books that we wrote. We read it through. We did the deluxe. I had the deluxe edition for the 30th anniversary, and it shows the cape in sort of a on a flag kind of thing, where it says "Here's lies Superman," and then I think you got more of a bloody S, which looks
Right.
pretty cool. But I like this. I mean, it had a lot of detail. I kind of I feel kind of like, is this one of the standalones like the Four Jokers?
No, I think this continued on. Like, there's like a whole stuff where it goes like to the funeral.
I do remember the funeral.
Then there's like the a lot of other like super like I think like Superman has some
Is
like
this
robots that show up like to take his place as he's dead, as he's sort of
really?
yeah.
No, this I think then they bring him resurrect him,
Yeah, eventually he
and
comes
then
back.
in a black suit or black and
I can't. I guess it depends on the thing. Yeah, eventually he comes back, sort of like some like somehow he gets back to the Fortress of Solitude and he sort of gets come back to
right.
life.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like I mean that was the one thing. I mean, well, okay, so let's for what was your thoughts on the book score? I'd give it a 9. What about you?
Yeah, I'd probably give it a 9 as well.
9 as
I
well.
mean, there's some stuff that's like cheesy, but as is overall, I can see how this made a big wave.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's more shocking than anything.
Right.
But what was your thoughts on doing the death of Superman? And I love to see kind of what our looks at with Superman the animated
Right.
movie, how much detail they'll go
Right.
into, which will be our next episode. But did you like this version of it versus the way the Justice League or
Oh, the stuff I've seen before.
the Batman v Superman?
Yeah, yeah. I think I like this better than the Batman versus Super, like the movie. Than
Yeah.
yeah, I like this better than that one.
Oh, we need to resurrect Clark, and I'm like, you can't just, I guess that was the thing with the Justice League is they tried to put so much stuff in, but that's a different story.
Right.
I give it, I'll give it a 9.
Yeah.
I think it's a strong story. It's gripping. I like I mean, the artwork is amazing. Like they've got like a lot of like issue. They've got like hot facts and kind of how they're like newsletters in the book and stuff. But I give it a I guess a 9. Just the cover looks so great and Doomsday looks so great, but that's us talking about uh the death of Superman for comics and chocolate, I guess I'm gonna call it for
Okay.
right now. But I'm Steve,
And I'm Jay.
and what are we gonna talk about next?
I think we're gonna do the animated movie, the Superman Doomsday.
Alrighty. And that'll be the next video. So, as always, I'm Steve.
And I'm Jay.
See you at the movies. Bye.